Well, hello everybody. This is my first time recording something similar to a podcast. It's a very short video to help you with some practice. So don't make fun of me, please, okay? So today we're gonna talk about social networks, we're gonna talk about the internet, and we're gonna talk about some mistakes that we make when we use the internet or social networks for fun. So here we go. Okay, so let's start with things that we do for fun with internet or with social networks. I would like to start with music. I don't know if you would consider Spotify a social network. I do, because in Spotify you can share playlists. You can also recommend music to your friends or family. And that's something that I always do for fun. I'm usually listening to music in Spotify. And when my girlfriend and I plan a trip, we usually create a playlist, specific playlist for that trip. And sometimes we go to some rides with friends and stuff, and everybody shares their music in one playlist so that everybody can enjoy different kinds of music. So I would say Spotify is definitely an example of a social network and how we use it for fun. I also like to watch videos, especially podcasts. So I use YouTube for that. That's another, I would say, social network that I use for fun. And of course, the normal, regular social networks that maybe are not that common for young people, but for people in their 30s and 40s, even 50s, it is very common. I'm talking about Facebook. You know, like Facebook is super common for people my age or older. Even though some young people have Facebook, it's not quite as popular as Instagram is. You know, so Instagram is also another social network that I like to use. I follow different accounts that I consider interesting, you know, and some others that are not very interesting, but they're fun, you know, like, so I just follow them to laugh a little bit about different memes or different stories they share. And of course, I have the learning accounts that I follow, accounts about animals that I love, about sea life, which I love, and things like that. So that's pretty much how I use social networks or the internet for fun, you know? Okay, so talking about apps. Well, in my cell phone, in my computer, I have different apps that I use for different reasons. As I mentioned before, for fun or also for learning, you know, like for distracting myself. So I have Instagram, I have Facebook, I have YouTube, and I don't remember if I have more apps for learning or for having fun, you know, but those are pretty much the ones that I use. Those apps could help me, could benefit me, but they can also, you know, affect my time, because sometimes I spend too much time on the screen, and sometimes the things that I'm following or the things that I'm, I don't know, enjoying are not necessarily making my life better. So personally, I would say that those are some of the mistakes I personally make when using my apps. Okay, so I know that some people have other kinds of apps like Twitter. I do have Twitter, I never use it. Snapchat is another one. I think Telegram is one, and there's one that is very similar to Twitter right now that I think is Threads. That's like the name. I'm not quite familiar with it, but I mean, those are some of the apps that people normally use, and in my case, the few apps that I use, which are YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, and pretty much that's it. Okay, so I just mentioned what I consider a mistake I make when I use social networks, but I want to share with you some mistakes that I consider people sometimes make also when they're using social networks or the internet. And that's probably the most important one when you're surfing the net or when you're using your social network apps. It is to post, share information that's very personal. You know that we kind of like sign a user agreement when we join one of those social networks. So we're basically accepting the fact that people are going to be seeing our personal stuff. And sometimes I don't even know what I'm like accepting. So I don't know how much I'm allowing those companies to use my personal information. So I would say that number one, like, don't share things that are too personal, like avoid sharing personal stuff. Even if you have the close friends thing in Instagram, I will recommend you not to share really personal stuff. Another mistake that we make is when we reshare things that we don't know if they're true or not. Like when someone posts news about a topic, we don't know much about the topic, but the name of the news is really like shocking to us, so it creates a reaction on us, which I consider manipulation, and then we just repost it. Like we don't even know if what we're doing is true or not, but we're just reposting it because it really resonated with us, so we accept it as the truth, but we don't even know if that's true or not. So I would recommend you to investigate a little bit and to make sure that what you're sharing makes sense. Like it's not just like something that someone we admire is sharing, so we just accept it as fact, and then we do the same. We spread, negative news or even fake news. Another mistake we make is to connect with people we don't know. Like I know it's very tempting to have like a lot of followers. That's something that really affects our mind, like to feel that we're important and stuff. But accepting people we don't know really opens a door to possible negative things, because it could be other people trying to get information about us to do really different crazy things. I don't want to mention all those crazy things that have happened because we share too much and we share with people we don't know. So I would recommend to avoid accepting requests from people you don't know, unless you're, like a specialist in social media. You're what they call an influencer. In that case, of course, you don't need to know who is following you or not. But if you're just a regular person like me, I would recommend to be careful with who you accept to follow you, okay? And mistake number 4, I would say it is not to pay attention to what reality really is. I know reality is different from everybody, and I don't want to get into those kinds of topics. I just mean that sometimes we disconnect too much from our daily lives. So keep in mind that you have friends, that you have relatives, that you have things to do, and use your time wisely. Like don't waste your time just watching TikTok videos, which I totally forgot to mention before. I mean, you can do it, but just make sure that you don't spend a lot of hours just watching useless TikTok videos. There are very good TikTok videos, so make sure that you make a balance, like to watch some things just for fun and some others because you want to grow, personally, emotionally, mentally, whatever you name it. So I would say that using social networks too often, definitely a mistake. I would recommend you to look for topics or like accounts that you can follow and that you can learn from, instead of just using things for fun. I'm not saying don't use them for fun, but I'm just saying like try to have a balance, okay? That's pretty much it about mistakes. And last but not least, I want to share with you what I think the biggest mistake is when we talk about the internet or social networks. And I would say is that not showing who you really are. So it's very common for most people to just create a, like a fake character, the person they would like to be or the person they would like the world to see. And that creates, like a really weird disconnection between who we are and what we are sharing with the world. Most of us, when we, bump into people in the street, we know who people kind of like really are, right? So we're not fooling anybody, like we are just fooling ourselves. So I would recommend you to avoid posting things about you that are not true, like taking pictures just to demonstrate how beautiful or attractive we are. Like it has to be more natural. Like we should be sharing things that are not super nice about us, because the idea of social networks, from my perspective, is to connect with other people, to connect with the world. And by faking or by creating a a fictional character, we are not connecting with anybody. And if that's the way we're using social networks, then like it's a shame, you know. And what I mean by shame is that we are wasting an opportunity to connect. So in that way, that's definitely the biggest mistake I would say that we make, trying to look like who we are not, like trying to demonstrate something that we are not, someone that we are not, just to try to get the attention from people. So this is pretty much it. I hope you liked the mini podcast. You know, like it was my first time, so I don't know how it went. I hope you find it useful. Okay, see you. Bye-bye.